of the Wind, or Kaze no Stigma in Japanese, is based off a series of light novels of the same name. The anime premiered on April 13th, 2007, and ended on September 21st, 2007, as the light novel series was still going. Unfortunately, the series' writer, Takehiro Yamato, passed away on July 20th, 2009, and the series was left unfinished. To be fair though, in the 2000s, this was commonplace. The anime industry just took whatever series was popular, and whether it was finished or not, they just made an adaptation out of it. And I guess no one paid any mind to it until years later. Because I feel like in today's generation, we are more people who want to be faithful to the original source material, even though the anime series was almost made by the same people who created the manga. So with that being the case, people argue that anime back then was sort of promotion for the manga instead of a manga being its own medium. And then, when it comes to today, people are kind of treating anime adaptations to manga like cartoon or movie adaptations to comic books, as to how faithful the source material is and how far the visual medium on a TV screen or a computer screen can go versus reading it off of pages. So with that being said, Stigma of the Wind was based off of light novels, which means it's mostly the written word, with only a few pictures in it as source material anyway. As far as this 25 episode anime is concerned, how much did it fare in comparison to the original light novel series? Well, we're gonna find that out today. Kazuma Kanagi was banished from his family for not being able to control the element of fire, and the heir of the family throne was given to his cousin, Ayano Kanagi. Years pass by, and Kazuma returns with a new name and a new power. His name is now Kazuma Yagami, and he controls the element of the wind. Though Ayano is not a fan of Kazuma's return, her father lets him return because a great evil is approaching Japan, and they need Kazuma's new power in order to stop it. So the plot to this is pretty standard, and honestly, almost every other shonen anime that came out at this time either had a similar plot or followed through a similar formula, as in, to fill in 24 episodes, some of it would be the actual plot, while the rest of the show would be, you guess it, fillers. Yeah, there is a bunch of filler in this series. Fortunately, it doesn't always tie into the important arcs of the series, but the filler can be distracting at times. I remember sitting in front of my computer watching these filler episodes, thinking when Kazuma and Ayano were going to suck face already. Even though they're technically cousins and that's creepy. As far as the main plot goes, there are plenty of interesting events that go down. What I find disappointing is that there is little to no character development, and it's pretty easy to blame the lack of source material that we have in order to make this a full series like Attack on Titan or Food Wars. That would just be unfair. So honestly, we have pretty little character development for this series. But would it be fair to judge it that harshly with the little source material that this series had going for it? Well, let's take a gander at it. When it comes to characters, the show definitely surrounds itself in character connection and some development more than the battles themselves. The best character is, how it should be, the main lead himself, Kazuma. This guy is the definition of a badass. So he gets banished for 4 years by his own family, and he comes back not giving a single damn. Except when it comes to his little brother Rin, who is one of the most adorable kid characters that anime has to offer, but I'll get to him soon. Kazuma doesn't want anything from his family, but he sure wants to prove his stubborn father and cousin wrong about being powerful with or without the powers from the family bloodline. He does prove that even though he can't control fire, that he can still kick some major ass. And even if no one agrees with him, he doesn't care, because he's not asking for anything from the family who abandoned him. Even if he were to be given lots of money, He'll only get that money because it's his job to protect the peace, not because he's expecting anything else from the Kanagis. Now, onto Ren. When I first saw this character, my first thought was almost that he was going to be the annoying little sibling character who tries to be like his older sibling but fails at it. That's not the case at all. He's probably a more sensitive mini version of Kazuma. But he is his own person at the same time. He wants to be like Kazuma in protecting the good people, but because he was raised in his family without his older brother for 4 years, he does have more emotion to keep the people he loves towards him and never losing any of his loved ones again. And he does fight without Kazuma's help. He learns how to stand on his own, which makes him a more independent sibling character than anyone else I've seen. Okay, Al from Full Metal Alchemist still counts as independent, but that was way too obvious of a comparison. The side villains are your usual side villains, but they do conduct plans that make my own blood boil, and the head of the Kanagi family is a lot more reasonable of a person than I thought. Especially since he allowed Kazuma's father to banish his son in the first place, which I don't really have an emotional opinion for him. And then we get to the characters that we cannot stand, because they're the type of characters that I guess we ask ourselves, why did the original creator have to make them like this? And because of the little source material, I'm not sure if the anime had really much to go on as to make them better. And the first character that I can't stand is Ayano. This girl is downright entitled, annoying, and stupid. To be fair, with the situation that happened in the prologue, it makes sense for Ayano to be this way because of her uncle and how he treated Kazuma. However, if the series' goal was trying to make a feminist character, it really failed. She can stand on her own, but most of the time when Kazuma does lend her help, she acts like that he didn't do anything. Plus, it's always as the next head of the Kanagi family with her, and I hate those people. It doesn't matter what family you belong to if you can't always do shit. And then the other one is Genma. Oh my god, Genma, you are the most useless character I have ever seen in my life. Genma appears in this series more as a comic relief every time that he and Kazuma get into a useless fight. Kazuma was given an opportunity by the head of the family to help defeat the evil, yet Genma tries all he can to give Kazuma a bad rep. How does it always end? Kazuma getting the upper hand. He's a badass. Of course he gets the upper hand. With that said, let's get to the good stuff, shall we? Of course, this series is in the shonen style, and it kinda doesn't go above and beyond, considering how much for teens it's trying to be. But that didn't stop me from finding the good things about the animation. The magic animation is what fairy tale fight animation should have been. It shows to me that you really don't want to mess with these powerful human beings, or else you're really going to get your ass kicked. Most of all, I love how Kazuma is designed. His looks completely match his personality and his abilities. You just get a look at him and you should be scared for your life. Unfortunately, this sometimes makes the other characters look a little bit plain and flat. But then again, that's probably the point of the animation choice. As far as setting would go, everything looks huge whenever Kazuma, Ayano, and Ren would go inside something in comparison to the outdoor settings. Everything just seems magical and grander because they do face a lot of magical things along the way. I know this is supposed to be the abnormal, while the outside looks more normal to the average public, but sometimes the outside seems a little too average. I can't really explain what that means, but I guess showing you pictures can help understand what I'm talking about. I wish I could say more about the animation for this show, but honestly, in comparison to a lot I've seen, this is standard, average 2000 style shonen animation. I mean, the 2000s were kind of the middle ground evolution from what interesting style the 90s had to offer, and then we also get the magnificent animation that we now have in the 2010s. So, in the 2000s, though there was some sort of evolution being made in the process, Stigma of the Wind was kind of meh, which for an action fantasy anime, that is not a good sign. The opening song, Blast of Wind, definitely sets the show's plotline, and it's a nice tune. If I were to make a top 13 favorite anime openings, this would definitely be an honorable mention. It definitely shows how magical this show's going to be, but if you were to watch the opening sequence for the first time, it kind of wouldn't seem so actiony until you watch the show itself. But I'm not going to judge that too harshly considering how colorful this show looks. Now, on to the endings. Oh boy, there is a lot to talk about with these three. Yep, you heard me say it. 3. The first ending, Hitori Kiri no Sora, definitely reflects the family drama aspect of Stigma of the Wind. It's also easy to say that this ending reflects on the fight episode aspects, especially since it shows a lot of the characters in their fighting poses. The second ending, Matataki no Kiwoku, reflects more on the show's filler episode aspects because it shows the characters in their normal states. Both of these endings are very entertaining in their own rights, but in my opinion, none of these compete against the last ending, which was only showed in one episode, Tsukihana no Inori. And now we are kind of entering spoiler territory, so if you don't want to be spoiled for this section of the review, though this is the part of the review that I consider to be the most romantic as far as my Valentine's Day anime review is concerned, I would still click on the time slot that I'm going to show you right here, just in case you really don't want to be spoiled. As I said earlier, this ending was only played for one episode, and it was to conclude a 3-episode arc in which Ren falls in love with a girl who turns out to have been born out of a My Sister's Keeper scenario. In episode 12, the last in the arc, after a huge battle to defend this girl's life and to stop a huge plot from a rival family that would have ended up destroying more than Kazuma and Ayano would realize, sadly, Ren's love interest dies, and Ren is put into a depression. This ending, instead of having Kazuma be the one who relaxes on the hill, Ren is the one who rests there, while a montage of the past 3 episodes plays in the midpoints of the song. And for those of you who are wondering about my mental state as I was watching this, I can easily say that throughout all of the anime scenes I had to watch over the past, I guess, half a decade of watching anime, this scene made me bawl my eyes out. As I mentioned in the character section of this review, Ren is a fantastic character and one of my favorite kid characters to boot. Not only was this arc a way to develop his puberty stage, since he is 12 years old, it was the perfect way to show how determined this character was to defend the person he loved and to show the rest of the audience how vulnerable Ren could be without making him look weak. And if this torture did not make you cry, I don't know what's going to at this point. Still, despite what I just said, this anime still has a pretty dope track to listen to. At least that's my opinion on it. Honestly, the dub for the show was not as bad as I expected it to be, especially since it came from the 2000s. But I have no doubt in my mind that the sub is actually probably much better and probably maybe less dumbed down than the English dub is. But I'm not giving the English dub any flack for trying at the least. However, if there's one voice that I will give flack for, I think you very well know whose voice that is. The voice actress for Ayano is the same voice actress for Lucy from Fairy Tail, Shirami Lei, and I can't tell whether she was going to be the annoying voice or the cocky voice. At least with Lucy, she had a motivation and a single style. Ayano was all over the place. The other voice actors were on point. You have Robert McCullum as Kazuma, and he definitely knows how to voice a badass. Then you got Josh Greeley voicing Ren, and at this point, I'm absolutely not surprised. He rarely does any character wrong, and the other voice actors play their parts extremely well too. Other than Ayano, I can't think of any other character I found extremely out of place or annoying. So, after all that, how would I rate this series, or what level of rating would I give it? Well, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and despite the ups and downs of this show, I'm still gonna give it the rating that I originally had it on my anime list. If you guys have not seen my reviews from my anime list, my account is in the description box below. I rated it a 8 out of 10. Despite some things being generic fantasy action shonen, the show is still pretty impressive for what magical action scenes that we did get, and the majority of the characters are still pretty enjoyable to watch, and there are scenes that are just gut-wrenching. So, I do recommend that you watch the series, but if you're really not interested in fantasy action or annoying female characters, then you're probably gonna suffer through this series a little bit. I'm Cait, Cher, and it's been real. Ciao!